it's really an incredible thing. They're very beautiful. They're everywhere, but in Japan, they symbolize the transient nature of life. So it's a very romantic kind of wonderful time in Japan, where Japan's a very busy country. People work a lot, and it's the one time of year that everybody takes off. And they have what's called Hanami, which is the flower festival. And Hanami is when everyone takes off of work normally. They go with their family and they go out to where the cherry blossoms are prettiest, normally a park in their city or outside of the city. And everyone sits down on a mat, and you bring food and you bring beer, and you share your food and your drinks with everyone who's touching your little mat that you're sitting at, and they share with you. And so that's going to be one of the things that we're going to do. It's going to be really, really cool. So you do the next slide if you want. Okay, so this is our 15-day itinerary in general. So it's color-coded by where we're going to be or if we're going to be traveling. So we're going to start in Tokyo, and we're going to be there for 3 days. And we'll go into all these events a little bit more detail here in a minute. As we leave Tokyo, we're going to do a tour of Mount Fuji. It's going to be a private bus tour. So we're going to have several stops around and get multiple views of Mount Fuji. So that's going to be really cool. Then we're going to end up in Kyoto. So we're going to start with the western side of the city and the eastern side of the city, and we'll focus on sort of the ancient Japan. So Kyoto, for those of you who don't know, was the capital of Japan until the 1800s. So all of the really cool stuff as far as really, really traditional Japanese things are going to be in Kyoto. Things like the geisha, things like the tea ceremony, a lot of really wonderful stuff. And like I said, we'll go into more detail. After that is Osaka. Osaka is sort of the second largest city in Japan, and it's the most metropolitan. It's where most of the comedians in Japan are from Osaka, so the attitude is a little bit more vibrant. It's also the culinary capital, so we're going to have some chances to try some wonderful local food while we're there on a guided tour, and also we'll be able to shop at Japanese supply stores that supply restaurants. So it's a great place if you're looking for a very high-end knife or something specific cooking-wise. It's a great place to go. Next is going to be Kobe, and Kobe is the fashion capital, and obviously it's famous for its Kobe beef, which is incredible and worth the money. I would highly recommend it. And while we're there, we're also going to get to visit the oldest onsen, and an onsen is a hot spring. Japan's on a volcanic fault line, so there's hot springs all over the place because there's volcanoes everywhere. And the Arima Onsen is the oldest one in Japan. It's over 1,000 years old. The building we're going to stay in is over 300 years old. It's really an incredible place. After that, we're going to move to my neck of the woods. We're going to be in Hiroshima for a few days, and we're going to have some specific events in the greater Hiroshima area, and actually a choice of what to do once we get there based on, like I said, we'll focus on it a little bit more in a minute, but there's going to be an opportunity for a really amazing bike ride. But if that's not your cup of tea, there's some other incredible events that you'll be able to take part in if that's a little bit too much or something you don't want to take part in. So go to the next one, please. Oh, and this is cool. So since we're going back and forth from city to city to city, and we're doing, we're going to be in Tokyo, Kobe, Osaka, Kyoto, Hiroshima, Onamichi, and then back and forth between them, and then going all the way back to Tokyo, having luggage for 2 weeks is kind of a pain. So one thing that's really cool that we've set up for this trip is we're going to have luggage transfers where at the end of each day, when we're going to a new city, there's a service in Japan that actually does this 24/7, and they'll forward your bags. So that way, when we get to a new city, your bags will be waiting for you there in the hotel. So that's a very cool and convenient aspect of this trip. We're going to be traveling mostly by bullet train, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, which is wonderful. But if you have no bags, it's much better. It's a lot less stressful. So, and then the next one, please. All right, so we're going to land in Tokyo on the first night. We're going to get settled in our hotel. If the cherry blossoms are in bloom, we can go ahead and check some of those out while we're in Tokyo. And then we're going to have so the first night is going to be just meeting everybody, getting together, getting set up, and then we'll have a nice group dinner all together to introduce everybody and kind of talk about, logistics, how everything works, things like that for the first night to get everyone settled in their hotel. The second day, we're going to be doing a city tour of Tokyo. We're going to be hitting all of the hot spots like Shibuya, Roppongi. If you look on our left, you can see there's the Sensoji Temple, which is one of the temples we'll visit. Shibuya is a famous crosswalk. If you've seen any movies about Japan, you always see this crosswalk because this is the busiest crosswalk in the whole world. It's like 2 million people pass through it every 48 hours. It's insane. But it's a really cool place to go. Yes, that will be part of the walking tour, yes. We'll probably take the train to Shibuya or the subway, hop out, and we'll be able to see the Shibuya district while we're there. So we're also going to be we're going to be taking part in a sushi making class, which will be fun. We'll get to learn from Japanese chefs how to roll sushi, which is cool. Something I've never done and I've always wanted to do. And the Golden Gai is a special district in Tokyo that has literally hundreds of tiny bars, tiny restaurants, and tiny shops. Some of them are like the size of a closet. They'll hold 5 or 6 people. And it's really unique, really amazing. And that's going to be part of the tour as well. But that's going to be the first few days, which will be in Tokyo and just trying to see and do as much as we can while we're there, but also doing it as a group and doing some more intimate things and not just taking pictures at the most famous places. So that's going to be really cool. All right, so next. All right, so the first hotel we're going to stay in Tokyo is going to be the Shinagawa Prince Hotel. Japanese hotels in general are amazing, and this one's no exception. The most important thing is they're incredibly clean, incredibly safe, and the customer service, just in general, let alone at a hotel, is really going to blow you away. Like, even at a gas station, you're not going to believe how well you get treated as a customer in Japan. So anyway, while we're there, like I said, our bags will be delivered there, and then we'll be there for just a few days. And then once we go to the next location, your bags will be shipped ahead. You won't have to worry about it. All right, so next.
And one note about the hotel, we're going to be staying, like it says, on one of the upper floors. So we'll actually have a really great view of the city. We'll be staying on one of the very top, like 5 or 10 floors.
Awesome.
So tell me what the weather's like during this time of year there.
Let's see. The weather should be cool, probably in the 60s and 70s in early spring. Well, this will be more late spring. It might get up to the high 70s, but it's not going to be really, really hot. For central and western Japan, you can think of it's about a month behind Texas. So like September and October are hotter there than they are here. It's sort of everything kind of lags behind about a month. So there may be some cool days where it's really cloudy or it rains and it's a little bit colder, maybe in the low 60s, but it should be nice while we're there in the spring.
I have a question. On day 2 on the itinerary online, it said that there's going to be a choice of where we go, and you listed several places. Will that be, how many choices will there be time to do? Just 1 or 2?
So part of what we'll be doing, and we'll talk about this at the end, but leading up to the trip, we'll have 3 or 4 different Zoom meetings for all the people who are going on the trip. And so this will give us an opportunity to kind of put in a few, if someone says, wow, like, so sort of the Shibuya district, the Golden Gai, those are kind of the 2 things that are a little bit optional. And so that's the suggested activities. But if people say, wow, I really want to go to this other thing or do this other thing, that's where we'll kind of be able to weigh in as a group and decide things to do. Or if someone really wants to go off on their own and do something, that's fine too. We're not the kind of group that has to stay together all the time.
Okay.
That's up to the individual participants. So that would all be, in conversation.
All right.
And that's going to be the same for all the cities that we visit. We should have enough time in each city that there'll be a little bit of downtime. Some people might want to just rest at their hotel, but there will be other, if you want to go shopping or if you're dying to see something off the beaten path that maybe your donor wants to go, we'll be able to talk about that and have that as an option and make sure you get there safely and get back in one piece, because it's very easy to get around in Japan. It's lit. The public transportation is excellent. It's really well laid out. And if you get lost, there are people to help you, which is great. So. Oh, sorry. Next slide. So after that, anyway, like I said, well, a few of you that were on earlier, when we travel from Tokyo to Kyoto, we're going to spend one full day visiting Mount Fuji. And this is going to be actually a guided bus tour. So we'll be in little Japanese minibuses, one or two, depending on how many people we have. And we're going to be visiting several places along the way, and we'll get multiple views from Mount Fuji. And we'll actually get to the highest point in the mountains you can get by road. So we'll actually be up on the mountain at one point, which is going to be very, very cool. So Mount Fuji is beautiful. It's a World Heritage Site. It's very symbolic for the Japanese, and it's an excellent place to visit, obviously. And this will be nice after spending 3 days in Tokyo. Tokyo is wonderful, but there's 30 million people there. So a little bit of nature's nice after a few days of kind of being immersed in that many people 24/7. So, and then the next one, thanks. All right, now Kyoto. Now, like I said before, Kyoto is the historic heart of Japan. So all of the traditional things, whether it's the theater, whether it's the geisha, Japanese tea, and a lot of the most famous sites in Japan are in Kyoto because that's sort of the cultural heart of the country. And while we go there, we're going to break it up into 2 days, sort of the west side and the east side of the city. So we're in the west side of the city. We're going to visit. There's a famous bamboo grove you can see in the picture. We're going to have a tour of that. We're going to have a special tea ceremony in Kyoto, which is going to be a private ceremony where you not only learn how to do the ceremony, but also there'll be a geisha present. And so you'll be able to actually talk to her, through a translator, learn about her life, learn about what it's like to be a geisha in 2022. So that's something that's very special for the Kyoto portion of the tour. We're also going to visit another World Heritage Site, the Golden Pavilion, which is just one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the world. And in Kyoto, it's very, very famous. It's also a World Heritage Site. And then the Torii Gates is really cool. So there's 3,000 of those orange gates in a row, and you hike through them, and it's for good luck because the Torii represents separation of heaven and earth and the balance of life. It's very, very Zen Buddhist. So the Torii Gates is going to be part of the tour as well. So anyway, next slide. So just some really amazing stuff in Kyoto. All right, and then for for day 6, that's going to be the east side of the city. So let's see here. All right, so we're going to be going on a food tour. Kyoto has an old back alley called Potansho, and it's one of the oldest parts of the city. And similar to the Golden Guy in Tokyo, it's a lot of very small, intimate bars and restaurants that are, have a lot of really amazing local cuisine that you can only get in Kyoto. And it's going to be really, really amazing thing to check out and see. We're also going to visit the Philosopher's Path, which is a beautiful walkway that's famous, especially during cherry blossom season. We're probably going to spend our Hanami day as far as like sitting outside and enjoying Hanami in Kyoto, because it's one of the best places to do that. Just depending on, the day and how the cherry blossoms are while we're there. And then we're also going to be going on a train tour. There's a nature train tour that goes around the city of Kyoto. And again, during cherry blossom season is the most beautiful time to do it. So that's going to be something special. They only run it from spring until fall. So we're going to get there early in the season when they start running the train, which is going to be pretty amazing. So you can do the next one. Thanks so much. Okay, so we're going to be staying in the Blossom, obviously named after the cherry blossoms in Kyoto. It's a beautiful hotel. It's really, really excellent. And like I said, it's hard to find a bad hotel in Japan, but we've tried to find ones that were small and intimate, but also had excellent reviews and excellent value for your trip. So that's going to be where we're staying in Kyoto. Go to the next one. Okay, then we're going to Osaka. Now, Osaka is the second largest city in Japan. It's almost as big as Tokyo, not quite, but it has a lot of different landmarks and sort of a different personality than Tokyo does. So Osaka Castle, you can see, is the most famous castle in Japan. It's the one that's on all the guidebooks. It's incredibly beautiful and dates back to the Sengoku Jidai, which was the Warring States period. Japan had a civil war that lasted 100 years. And so Osaka Castle was where one of the last big battles was. So there's a ton of history there, and some really amazing things both around the castle for viewing cherry blossom trees, and also inside the castle for things about the samurai and about, they have all these different swords that are 600 years old. It's really an amazing bit of history for the trip. We're also going to be going on a back streets tour when we're in Osaka. This is a night off the beaten path by a local guide. This tour actually won the best private tour in Japan 2 years in a row, so I'm really excited. It's already filling up for when we're going to be going. We had to book it this far out. So that's really something unique and special, because we're going to get away from the big tourist centers, away from the train station, and go off the beaten path and see some really amazing local things in Osaka. While we're there, we're also going to get a chance to do taste some of the local food. Osaka's Kitchen, that's Kuromami Ichiba Market. It's a famous place to shop for cooking supplies, to try different kinds of local foods. And Osaka really is the food city for Japan. So you can find cuisine from all over Japan and all over the world in Osaka. So we're going to sample some of that while there as well. Namba is sort of the Times Square of Osaka. It's the brightly lit, like, electronic district with lots of lights and beautiful signs. And it's really famous for its shopping, its bars, its nightlife. And we're going to have a tour of Namba and the surrounding area while we're there. The Umeda Sky Building is a great place to see the city, so we're going to make that part of the tour as well. You can have a fantastic view of the entire city, and we'll try to do it at either sunrise or sunset, depending on how the schedule's going, because that is the very best time to do it. And in the bottom right, Amerikamura. So after World War II, when Japan was occupied by the United States from 45 to 52, Amerikamura was the part of Osaka where all the U.S. soldiers were stationed. So this was sort of where American culture became popular in Japan. And so it started as just, this is where the Americans are, and it turned into its own little America. So if you've ever been to a large city that has a little China or a little Korea, this is a little America in Osaka, and it's a very interesting and vibrant place. And of course, it's Japan's idea of what America is. So it's a little bit different from what you might expect, but it's very, very cool and a great place to visit. All right, so next.
Just real quick, you were asking about things, that are shiftable, and like the Amerikamura, it would be something that we would talk about, because it's something that I could see people really enjoying doing, or kind of saying, you know what, I really would rather do more of the historical stuff or more food stuff. So that's kind of an example of something that you can be moved around or, or replaced depending on what the group wants to do.
Perfect. All right, and this is where we're going to be staying in Osaka. It's a beautiful hotel, and they have their own onsen, which is a private hot spring in the hotel. So that's going to be a nice addition after walking around all day. So that'll be something cool to do. But all of the hotels that we've chosen are very close to public transportation. So it's going to be very easy to get around using the subway or the train or the bullet train. So. All right, now Kobe. So 2 days in Kobe. Kobe is the fashion capital of Japan. Like, when you're there, you're going to be amazed at how well dressed everyone is. It'll feel like you're in Paris or Manhattan. Like, everybody looks amazing when you're in Kobe. So we're going to be doing some local things. Kobe is one of Japan's sake regions, so they make traditional Japanese sake the same way they've made for hundreds of years. We'll be able to visit one of the breweries and, of course, try sake and buy just world-class sake for a pretty good price to bring back home, if that's something you want to do. We're also going to be visiting Sanomaya district, which is downtown Kobe. And we'll have the chance while we're there to, Kobe beef is going to be optional if you want, because it is a little pricey. So it's definitely something that is worth it, but it'll be an option for people if they want to try it while they're in Kobe. I highly recommend it. It's some of the best food I've ever had was Kobe beef in Kobe. We're also going to visit an onsen called Arima Onsen, which, like I said before, an onsen is a hot spring, and this is the oldest one in Japan. We'll go there. This is going to be an excellent break, again, after several days of lots of walking and lots of time out in the city, and really just get away from everything. The Arima Onsen is just an incredibly beautiful place that's very balanced with nature. It's like the complete opposite of downtown Kobe. and it's going to be an incredible place to stay and enjoy all the different hot springs that they have while we're there. Excellent, thanks. All right, so we have the Comfort Inn Kobe Senomiya, and this is going to be where we're staying to begin with. It's a very nice, very modern, and you can notice very Western style of hotel. Kobe, traditionally or historically, all of the foreign missions and the foreign banks originally were based in Kobe before they all moved to Tokyo after the war. So large portions of Kobe look like Western Europe. They look like the United States. There are mansions, they call them there, which are just Western style homes, and they really stand out. And it's a really interesting thing. So this hotel is, you can see they're going for sort of a, looks kind of German to me, but in Kobe, everything is like exaggeratedly Western because they're very proud of that. Every region in Japan has something that they're known for, and they really, really exaggerate it. And for Kobe, it's the fact that they're the Western stylish city. And of course, they have amazing beef, but everything in Kobe, it really just looks very different from the rest of Japan. One, because it's so international, but also Kobe had a huge earthquake in the late 90s, and it destroyed about a fourth of the city. And so a lot of Kobe is brand new, whereas other parts of Japan are obviously much older. So, and then the Arima Onsen, these are some pictures of it. It's just incredible. It's going to be in the mountains outside of Kobe. There's different hot springs. And this is one of the nicest onsens and probably the most famous onsen in all of Japan. So it's really, again, this is another thing that we have to book this far out because it will fill up. So.
And something to note about the two ryokans, this one and one that we're staying in later, these are the only two places where a single occupancy upgrade is not really an option. We decided to go ahead and go sort of full on traditional just for these 2 nights. It will be divided by gender, and then the hot springs are all shared. But I just wanted to mention that some people are getting a single upgrade, but this is one area where we will be staying probably 2 or 3 to a room. And it's just for 1 night tonight and then another night for those going on the bicycle tour.
Yeah, and with the traditional ryokans, this is what you think of in a movie about Japan, where it's rice paper and bamboo wood, and then you actually make your own bed on the floor, and everyone sleeps on the floor on tatami mats, but it's actually very, very comfortable, and you can kind of make your own pillow fort for the night. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, it tends to be, when you stay at a ryokan, it tends to be family style, so that's the only reason. There really aren't individual rooms. There's just sort of a big room for 2 people or 4 people. So, but it's a ton of fun, and it's a very interesting experience. So, all right, now we get to Hiroshima. So when we get to Hiroshima, there's a lot of obviously history in Hiroshima. There's the Hiroshima Memorial, which is there. Actually, my background, that's behind me. That's took that picture from when I used to live there. So the Hiroshima Memorial is actually a building that was built in the 1920s in Hiroshima that was obviously destroyed in the atomic bomb blast in 1945. But they kept this one part of the city. They didn't repair it as a reminder for future generations of, what happens when atomic weapons are used. There's also the Atomic Bomb Museum, which is incredibly interesting, very detailed, and very moving. It will have an effect on you. But if you're interested in history, whether it's world history, Japanese history, World War II history, it's really an incredible place that you just can't miss. And uniquely on this tour, the Japanese government has a program with the city of Hiroshima where they will pair tour groups with a atomic bomb survivor. So we're actually going to be able to meet with someone who was there. Usually at this point, the people are obviously, in older age. A lot of them were children during the bomb blast, but we'll get a chance to ask what it was like, what they went through, and it's a very unique and a human thing that we'll get to kind of take part in, which is really amazing and something that's very special to me personally. Right off the coast of Hiroshima is an island called Miyajima Island. You can get there, you take the train to the ferry, and then the ferry is just a 5-minute ferry. It's a half a mile off the coast. It's right there. And they have the red shrine in the bottom left corner. That's Utsukushima Shrine, which is one of the World Heritage Sites in Japan. It's really beautiful. It's a floating shrine. So at high tide, it floats in the water, and at low tide, you can see it's in the mud. But it's a beautiful, beautiful island. It's inhabited by deer that are tame. So there's deer everywhere you can pet, and they'll come up and try to eat the food that you're eating. So you have to kind of keep them away, but it's a really interesting and beautiful place. On Miyajima Island, we'll obviously see the island and see the shrine, but there's a 1-star Michelin restaurant that's famous for their eel. Hiroshima has the best eel in Japan. They're very proud of it. So we can go there and we'll be able to try some world-class eel rice bowls while we're there. And if eel's not your thing, there's several other things on the island that you can try, but it really is amazing. It's very, very good. When we get back to the mainland, when we get back to Hiroshima, we're going to take part in an upscale sushi dinner, a very high-end sushi, I think we might do it as a lunch, depending on the schedule, but there's some really amazing, authentic Japanese sushi that we'll be able to try while we're there. And we'll also be able to take part in an archery lesson with traditional Japanese archery. When people think of the samurai, they always think of swords, but the samurai were actually horse archers. So Japanese archery goes back, 600-700 years, and we'll be able to take a lesson from. There's a school in central Hiroshima, and they give lessons. So you get to dress up and wear the outfit. It's really, really cool. It's a lot of fun and an excellent experience that will be unique and will help your archery if that's something that's important to you. So.
And this one is the sushi dinner. This one will be.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Thanks so much.
The last day in Hiroshima will be the lunch.
Okay, thank you. I got those two mixed up.
Of course, no worries.
Okay, so this one here is going to be the hotel in Hiroshima. If you don't, so we'll stay here to begin with, but then if you don't go on the cycling trip, which we're going to talk about next, you'll stay here the whole time. This is about, about a quarter mile east of the of central Hiroshima. In the center of Hiroshima is the Peace Park. That's where the Atomic Bomb Museum is, and that's actually where the bomb went off in the city. It's sort of the central part of the city now, and this is very, very close to that. So if you do end up staying and not going the bike tour, this is right in the heart of all of the shopping, all of the best parts of Hiroshima, and you'll have access to, they have trams in Hiroshima that are above ground and also a subway. So it's very, very easy to get around without too much walking. So, all right. So this is my personal favorite thing that I was able to do when I was in Japan. And I've done it about 5 times, and I highly recommend it to everyone who comes to do this, but it's optional. So the SHIMANAMI KAIDO is a highway that connects actually the main island of Japan, Honshu, to Shikoku, which is the smaller island that's just south of the main island. There's a series of 6 bridges that go from Onamichi, which is east of Hiroshima. It's about 2 hours on the slow train east of Hiroshima. And it goes all the way to Imabari, which is a small city in Shikoku. Now, all of these bridges, obviously cars ride on them, but they all have bike lanes. So there is a bike path that's actually painted. It's a blue line that's painted on the highway that goes all the way from Onamichi, which is east of Hiroshima, all the way to the island of Shikoku. And it's incredibly beautiful. You're right by the ocean or over the water in the case of some of the bridges. And it's through my favorite part of Japan, which is the Seto Inland Sea, which is a series of several, like 1,000 islands that are just off the southern coast of Japan. It's really, really beautiful. Now, the biking trip is about 80 kilometers, which is a ways. So what we do is we break it up into 2 days. So the first part of the biking trip, we'll do the first 3 bridges, and we'll stay at an onsen on the island of Satoda. Satoda means lemon. It's a town that's famous for its citrus and its lemons. So they have really amazing lemon cakes and lemon tea and lemon essence of lemon essential oils. So if you want any lemon stuff, it's the place to go. But we'll stay there for the night. They also have an onsen, which is fantastic after riding bikes for 4 hours. And then, oh, here we go. This is Sumino Ryokan, which is the ryokan that I've stayed at this one 4 different times. It's really amazing. The staff is incredible. The garden you see is actually in the middle of the hotel. The hotel is, or the ryokan, it's built in a square around the Zen garden. So when you wake up in the morning and you want to go to the onsen or you want to leave to go ride your bike, you walk through the Zen garden on your way out. It feels like you're in a different time. It's a really amazing place. And then there's onsens for both men and women on different floors. And there's a Coke machine by the onsen that sells beer, which is just amazing. So you can get you a beer after a bike ride, and you will sleep like a baby. It's but this is, it's a beautiful place, and we'll have a kaiseki meal, which is a traditional Japanese meal of fresh fish and vegetables and rice. Will be served actually at there, and also breakfast as well while we're there. So this is just, it's just a wonderful part of the trip, and some of the most beautiful scenery you'll ever experience. So
a lot of the rooms face into the garden, but a lot of them actually are right on the water. And so you either have a view of the water or of the inland or of the garden. So it's either way, it's pretty great.
And if you step out,
what happens if you don't do the bike? I had a knee surgery a few months ago.
oh, sure. Now, I was going to mention that the last time I did the bike ride, which was 4 years ago or 3 years ago before COVID, I went. They do have e-bikes now, but if that's still not a good option for you, we have 2 other days planned for anyone who is not interested in the
Funny
bike
you
ride.
should ask that question. Here are the options.
Here we go. Yeah. We thought you might not. And we know it's, and I would say it's medium intensity. I mean, it's not crazy, but if you, I wouldn't just get out of bed and do the bike ride. I think I would recommend that, you try to either try to walk every day, or if you have a bike, ride. I'd say if you ride 1 hour twice a week, you would be fine. I mean, it is vigorous, but we don't have to hurry. We can go at our own pace. We're not trying to do the Tour de France. We can go slow. There's lots of places to stop along the way. There's, little food stops. There's a gelato place that's amazing that we always stop at that sells sea salt ice cream, which is incredible. And so it's, if you really go hard, you can probably do the first part in about 2 hours, but it only takes us 3 or 4 because we stop a lot. We take pictures. We take our time. So, but again, if that's not a good option for people, we have 2 other areas around Hiroshima that I highly recommend. So the first day would be the classic culture tour. So there's Hiroshima is actually, it's by the ocean, but it's actually in a valley. So there's actually mountains all around the northeast and west side of the city. So there's just west of Hiroshima Station, the main train station, there's a Mount Mataki, which is a medium-sized mountain, and you can actually take the train, and you can go up to the top of the mountain. There's a temple there that's really, really beautiful. You get an excellent view of the entire city. After that, we would travel to Iwakuni. Iwakuni is about an hour away on the train just west of the city, and there's a famous bridge called Kintai-kyo. They also have a special kind of sushi that they make there. They make a layered sushi that's rice and fish that you can try. And there's also this trip to Iwakuni will be chauffeured actually by a friend of mine who I know who does tours in Hiroshima. And we would have dinner. There's a place called Sanzoku, and Sanzoku is amazing. It's an old Japanese building from the Edo period that was built on the side of a mountain. And it used to be, Sanzoku means pirate. And so they weren't ocean pirates, they were actually bandits. It's the same word in Japanese. And so these were people that used to hide out in the mountains, and then when people traveled the road, they would rob them. So this old building was a pirate or a bandit stronghold that was torn down. They rebuilt it and made it into a restaurant. And they serve just incredible, the best teriyaki chicken I've ever had. It's really, really good. So that would be the first day, which is, all close to Hiroshima, not too far, but, a lot of fun stuff you can do if the bike's not for you. And then the second day, this is, so there's a place called Okunoshima. It's actually close to Onamichi where the bike path starts. There's a little island called Rabbit Island, and it's an island that is completely covered in rabbits. There's something like 20,000 rabbits on the island, and it's a very small island. It's about 3 square miles, this small island. It was used by the Japanese to manufacture poison gas in the 1930s, and then was used in World War II. So you have this juxtaposition of cute rabbits everywhere, which of course Japan focuses on that. But there's also a museum that focuses on the poison gas that they made and used in China. So interesting place to go. But it's an incredibly beautiful island. It's in the middle of the same island chain that the bridges are. I think you can actually see one of the bridges from the island. And I've been there a couple times. It's an incredible place to go. It's very relaxing. There's a cafe on the island. There's places to eat, but it's really just a very unique experience to go. And like you get off the boat and you say, where are the rabbits? And you walk about 10 feet and there's hundreds of them will come up to you because they want you to feed them because everyone feeds the rabbits. There's no predators on the island. So it's just tourists coming to feed the rabbits, but incredibly beautiful, a lot of history and lots and lots of rabbits. So that'll be the second day.
Many. And
Many,
this would
many
also
rabbits.
be an option too. By this point, we will have been in Japan for 11 days, 12 days. So if you want to do something else, we could also talk about that. If there was a different island you wanted to go to, some other kind of side trip, this would be a great opportunity to kind of, if this wasn't your cup of tea, to do something else. And then we could help plan that and help organize that for you.
Perfect. All right. And then, so day 14 will be our last day in Hiroshima. And for this, just like Diana mentioned, at this point, maybe if there's anything you've missed, anything you wanted to do or go see, we're planning on doing a lunch tour that will focus on some of the local foods in Hiroshima that they're sort of famous for. But also this will be an excellent time to shop for gifts, if there's anything that you wanted to see that you didn't get to see, it'd be a great time to do that. And this will be our last day, sort of an easy, laid-back day because we're going to have to go back to Tokyo to fly back to the U.S.
And this tour is actually really highly rated as well. It's one of the most popular tours. We're able to set up a private one. Otherwise, they're all sold out in the window where we're going already. So it's like 3 hours. We're trying lots of different little restaurants, and it should be really, really cool.
Yeah, there's a few different foods that are famous in Hiroshima. They have a food called okonomiyaki, which is a layered dish that has noodles and cabbage and meat and cheese, and so we'll definitely try that while we're there. Hiroshima, I mentioned the eel. Hiroshima is also famous for its oysters. So if you want fresh oysters or fried oysters or oysters with ramen, it's an excellent place to get oysters. And there's a number of desserts and local sweets that are very, very popular in Hiroshima that I'm sure will be featured on the tour. And something else I forgot to mention that's very important is maybe you've heard of them, but Japan has about 50 different varieties of Kit Kat bars. So everywhere you go in Japan, each prefecture, whether you're in Tokyo or Hiroshima or Okinawa, they have some sort of local flavor of Kit Kat. So every time I go, I always end up spending way too much money on Kit Kats because they're just a wonderful gift to bring back. And they have flavors, that you might think of, like Hiroshima is famous for their oranges as well. So they have an orange flavored Kit Kats for Hiroshima, but they also have one that's a wasabi flavored, which is not the best, but you can buy it if you want. They have a ton of different just off the wall flavors that make excellent gifts for when you come back for your loved ones or just for you to enjoy. So. Okay. So the bullet train, the Shinkansen is the bullet train in Japan. And as part of the trip, you'll have the Japanese government has a special deal for tourists, which we'll be taking advantage of, called the JR Pass. And you can get it for 1 week, 2 weeks, or up to 3 weeks. We'll have it for 2 weeks, obviously. We will have unlimited use of the high-speed train. So this will be our primary means of getting in between cities, with the exception of when we go to Mount Fuji, we'll take a private chartered bus for that. The bullet train is amazing. It's incredibly clean. Security takes about 5 minutes. It's not like the airport. You get on, you walk through a metal detector, you walk up to the door, everyone else gets off, you get on, you go to your seat, you have a seat. It's very luxurious. It's sort of interesting because it's modern, but also retro. Like there's a lot of space to sit and talk. The chairs turn around so you can talk to your group of people. There's a lady who comes by with a food cart. There's usually a smoking car, which has always made me laugh. There's a private car in the back if you want to smoke a cigarette. But the bullet trains travel between 2 and 250 miles per hour. So the track actually banks as you turn. It's really, really something. And it's definitely the best way to travel. It's not quite as fast as flying, but when you take away the security, it's actually faster. So,
and it's significantly faster than driving.
Much faster.
Much faster. Yeah, even with the boarding time, getting there and all of that time, it's still much faster than driving.
Yeah, it's about a 10-hour drive from Hiroshima to Tokyo. I mean, that's how far away it is. And it's about 4 hours on the bullet train. So it's considerably faster than driving. So, And then last but not least, we'll be at the Narita Tobu Hotel. This one is just, I mean, it's a very nice hotel, but it's mainly chosen because it's very close to the airport. We don't want any stress getting ready for our flights after 2 weeks abroad to make sure we're good to go. We've got plenty of time, and everybody can make it to their flight safely and then return back to the US.